but that's been a few years back. So
Yeah.
got to get organized again here.
Well, amazing audience. We are live with Charlie Patterson. Charlie, it's a great pleasure to connect with you today.
It's a pleasure to talk with you.
How are you doing today? I mean, what's up?
Well, I'm doing pretty well.
What-
I'm doing pretty well. I've been on a trip for a week and got kind of under the weather from the heat, but I'm coming back, so I'm getting back to normal again.
I would like to know, if you had to sum up things, which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time?
I think probably my growing up on the farm, learning values and dealing with people and wanting to help and do things good for the world is probably what got me here.
So who did you learn that skill of giving from?
Well, I learned the skill from growing up on the farm, learning farm values. My mother and dad were very good people. I think they tried to raise me right, and apparently it's worked out okay.
Did it always work out okay?
Yeah, I've always worked hard. I've always gone along with people. I've had a very adventurous life. I've been involved in auto racing for 62 years. The racing, growing up on the farm, dealing with a lot of big people throughout the world it's been a real education for me.
Yeah. So tell me about the racing part of what you did. What's the fastest you've gone to?
When I was probably about 12 or 13, my dad took me to watch race cars run at the 16th Street Speedway across the Indianapolis 500. Well, that got me really excited. So when I was about 20, I took the big leap and got right into working with the teams that were running cars at Indianapolis 500. And so that's been my life for 62 years now.
Wow.
And for 30 years of that, I spent at the Indianapolis 500 building cars, making all the parts, the pieces, and been involved in the racing at the Speedway for 30 years. That was from 1958 to 1988. Since then, I go back every year and visit with my friends I've made over the years. It's still a very passionate part of my life.
Do you still drive? Do you still ride?
No, I don't drive anymore.
Right.
But I've been asked. I've had car owners that I've driven for and know that I drove race cars, wanting to know if I wanted to run their cars again. And I said, do you realize how old I am? They think I'm in my 60s, and realistically, I'm 80 years old.
Wow, you look great. You look
great.
great.
I know what my skill is. I know from my basic driving every day on the highway that I could probably go back out and kick butt with the best of them. But I know that 80 years old and been hurt and been paralyzed before in my back, I don't want to take the chance to do that again. I want to live out the rest of my life and be able to get around and maneuver, you know?
Yeah. Now you are here today, Charlie, because you are also still a giver, right? Why will you continue to repeat the skill of giving, nevertheless, in spite of the challenges?
Well, it's just, once you get racing in your blood and you want to compete and do things, I've always been a very competitive person. In high school, playing basketball, running track, whatever, I've been very competitive. So I would still like to do that, but I know better.
Yeah, yeah. What is one other thing you've done consistently over the last 3 years?
Well, the big thing, I've been in business. I was in business 40 years building drive shafts. And we had a very successful business that we ran, that we dealt throughout the whole United States. For 8 years, I built about 3/4 of all the drive shafts that was used in NASCAR.
Wow.
And when they come to the brickyard the first time, my wife said, there's some drivers out in front of the shop. My business was built out of my grandfather's blacksmith shop. We built a big concrete block building where we ran for years. We needed more room, so we gutted the old dairy barn and we built shafts in the dairy barn.
Wow.
So when those drivers come up, they wanted to see this factory where their drive shafts were coming from. They couldn't believe that their drive shafts were coming out of that dairy barn. So I did that for 40 years, and because of the knowledge I gained and the fact that I knew what I was doing, I'm still doing them yet today.
Oh, really?
It's a hobby now. I don't do it as a business.
Yeah.
But once in a while, I have a driver or somebody that needs a drive shaft for their car, excuse me.
Sure.
They'll come to me and they'll want me to build them a drive shaft. So I still do it yet today. So.
How does that make you feel, looking back at what you did to now? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel good that I was in something successful, and to add to all of that work that I've been doing all my life, I was the one that started the street gasoline alley in Indianapolis. That's an area we needed garages on the outside of the speedway to work in. So I found a place that was a jungle down through the little narrow street, trees on both sides, and I started developing that piece of property. And I built my first building on that street in 1980.
Wow.
And my first renter on that street was a guy by the name of Rick Hendrick, who now is a very successful NASCAR owner.
Wow.
That was before he ever went to NASCAR.
Yeah.
And through that development there, I built 8 of those buildings on that street. And when we started building, it was called Rowena Street. That wasn't really a racing name for a racing complex.
Yeah.
So I took the petition of the city of Indianapolis to name it Gasoline Alley.
You got your?
And they thought it was a great idea.
Yeah.
However, the Speedway did not think it was great because Gasoline Alley was the area around the garage area at the Speedway. So they became a little upset with the fact that I stole their name and got that street name. So yet today, that's a very well-known area throughout the world is Gasoline Alley in Indianapolis.
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
I still maintain buildings there and still have an income coming out of those buildings.
That's wonderful.
And I still had time on my hands after that, so I started a housing development.
How much things does this guy do?
And through all my racing time, I still found time to do this whole housing development. Me and my wife put in a 23-lot housing development, sewer, water, gas, and even built most of the houses in there.
Wow.
So I've kept myself busy throughout the time that I've grown
Kept
up.
yourself busy. You've been busy. You're
Yes.
still busy. Why will you continue to repeat that skill nevertheless, though? Why will you continue to be that person who is business? Because you're down here today, right? I mean...
Well, it's something I've always done, and,
Yeah.
and I know I've had friends of mine who have retired from their business, and within a year they sit down and they die. They're everything about them just shriveled down to nothing, and they were gone.
Yeah.
And I stay busy, and it's not because I'm pushing myself. It's because I still enjoy doing what I'm doing.
Love it.
And everything that I do anymore, I try to help people. I mean, you would not believe the work that comes in my shop, that I'll weld up a piece for them, I'll fix up a thing to hang their bird feeder on.
Yeah.
I never charge for that kind of things. I've enjoyed helping people throughout my life. And now I can go to work every day and go in there and fix stuff and
Have fun.
and hand it to them and get a smile out of it. That makes me happy.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And so I'm enjoying life to the fullest yet today.
Amazing audience, we're live with Charlie Patterson. Amazing conversation going on here. He has the light rays just beaming down on him. Well, that's wonderful. Well, let's switch gears for a moment and let me now invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water, where I'm from, right? What is your earliest childhood memory?
What is my what?
Earliest childhood memory. So it's my accent.
Okay, my earliest memory was probably, well, I remember some of my real early childhood, about 4 or 5 years old. But at 5 years old, I started dumping a scoop of feed in front of every cow that we milked. We had a big dairy farm.
Wow.
So my job started out as dumping feed in front of every cow we milked. Because if you didn't put feed in front of them, they'd kick the milker off. You had to feed them to put the milker on.
Yeah.
So that's how I started my early life, and I still remember that very vivid today. I remember what the box looked like that the feed was scooped out of. I remember that. Now, after we got that milking done, at 5 years old, my dad put me on a farm tractor in a field, a Ford tractor, pulling a case wire-tied baler. We had 2 guys working on the baler, so they were older.
Yeah.
And that's how I got really started and how I remember my life starting.
Why do
My
you think-
dad would go around the field about 3 times to get away from the fence, put me on that tractor, and I'd sit there all day at 5 years old, and the neighbors were very upset because my dad had that little 5-year-old kid out there on that tractor.
Yeah.
But I've done it all my life since then. And that was part of the reason I got into the racing too. I'll add that to it. The 2 guys that worked
But
on
right now you are interpreting and connecting the memory, right?
Yeah.
There we go. Let's
Oh,
go. Yeah.
I'm thrilled. At 80, I can still remember all that.
Yes.
Now, my problem is, now that I'm 80, some of those names start fading away.
Sure,
But
sure.
Names always did that, but the memories are still there as clear and everything.
Yes.
But the 2 guys that worked on that baler, they were race drivers. And that's what started me going to watch racing, which got me into this 62 years of racing.
It's amazing how it connects, right?
Yeah,
How life
it's-
connects.
My whole life is connected all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. All right. If we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
12 years old, I really didn't have a favorite song. My favorite song came out when they made old time rock and roll. I mean, to me, music was music. I listened to Lawrence Welk, I listened to all of it. But the piece of music that come out, old time rock and roll, that had me on the dance floor. That's something about that music that had me wound up so bad.
Yeah.
And even today, if I'm doing something and I hear that playing, I
You
stop
rock
and
and
listen
roll.
to it.
All right.
I stop and listen to it. And I catch myself moving
Yeah,
around a little
you-
bit, and I think,
yeah.
oh my God, who's watching me do this at 80 years old, you know? It's still there, you know?
Well, you know, you said everything connects, and if anyone has to represent old time rock and roll, I would choose you for sure.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, that's it. And you know, the thing is, what added to all of that part of it, I baled hay and all the stuff that I made off the farm. I had a pretty good cash supply, and I graduated in 1956 from high school, and I bought a brand new 1956 hardtop. And it was a 2-tone blue, so we had to put blue lights under the fenders and the grill. And after we got the milking done every night, we drove around a couple of the main drive-in restaurants here in Indianapolis. The
Yeah.
Pole was the main place.
Yeah.
So to add to the music part of it and all, after we got the milking done, I'm driving around showing off my brand new 56 car in front of all these other people that's driving their dad's old sedans.
Yeah, and this is your car.
So that's when music really came into my life,
All
was
right.
then. So,
All right. All right.
but you
Well,
always had the music cranked up while you're driving around.
my father would love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has lived a similar type life. Yeah.
Good.
Working hard as a young man and making things happen that
Yeah.
people his age and twice his age didn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hard work definitely represents value.
Well, I did a lot of hard work, but it never really bothered me.
It never kills.
You know, it's like putting up hay at 5 years old. We still got a hay patch out back of my house. I still put up a field of hay this year.
Wow.
So I'm still involved in the hard work part of it.
Yeah.
My routine, like today, like back then, I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. I go to McDonald's and I get my breakfast kick right there.
Yeah.
And I'm in the shop at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and it's so funny. I mean, my shop's just a hobby, a playhouse, but I got all my equipment there. And for some reason, I just keep working in there every day and look up and it's 5 o'clock, it's time to quit.
Yeah.
Just like when I was doing it full-time as a business.
Hmm.
My life's still going on just like it did back years ago.
That's good. Yep, that's good. Well, let's switch gears for a moment. Let me now invite you into my time machine. Remember when I did that?
Yeah,
I'm joking.
I like that.
We've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form. So it's yes or no. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to? Yes or no?
No.
Are you married?
Yes.
Do you have children?
Yes.
Do you believe in God?
Yes.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Yes.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
Yes.
What about screen time, the phone and or the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
I would say probably less.
All right.
Yeah.
It's getting up there?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah.
All right. If you had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents Charlie Patterson, what would you say that is?
Been there, done that the right way.
Love it. Charlie, this is a great pleasure.
That's the name of my book.
Love that. You didn't, so that's a book that you've written, it's completed?
There's a book that is about nearly done out of a
Okay.
lady in Texas.
All right.
That's probably going to be a big seller.
Yeah, been there, done that the right way.
Right.
I love it. Charlie, this was a great pleasure, my friend. Thank you for being on What is Inspired.
It's a pleasure talking to you. You're a
same
great
here.
guy.
Thank you. You
I'd
too.
love to come down in your end of the
You
country
should.
and spend some time.
You should.
I've done a lot of traveling, so
You should.
we'll talk.
All right, we'll talk about that. Boom.